Hey everyone, welcome back to Create TV.
Hey, what's up? We're glad to have you.
That was our attempt at an intro.
Indeed. Anyway, what are we going to be talking about today?
So, basically, some of the characters that we've been working on, Velocity mainly, he's going to be the primary focus of our topic today. When you developed the character, Manny, what did you really foresee in his storytelling, how we're going to develop him, or how we're going to tell his story generally, and what are his attributes that you really want to focus on?
Well, first off, I'd say he's incredibly intelligent. I said that before. He is, at a young age, he's aspiring to be like someone he looked up to as a child. It was another character, the one that you created, Nexus.
Oh, yes.
Nexus. His.
It's actually Dr. Kyle Reyes. Yeah, that's his secret identity, I guess, as it were. He's mostly trying to stay as secret as possible, but yet hiding in plain sight. That's really what he's doing. But with Velocity, so that's what you're intending with him. Is you're wanting him to be more. He wants to be a scientist like Nexus. Or like Dr. Kyle Reyes.
Aspiring a scientist at a very young age, which doesn't work out, and that's one thing I wanted to put into the story a bit. Is that it rarely ever occurs where a young person could aspire to be a scientist and then actually become one. It usually you're met with ridicule. You're met with and that's not just among being other kids that are your age. It's actually just the people that you look up to. They wouldn't normally insult you. So in this case, that's what I definitely wanted to put in the story quite a bit. It was the realistic nature that is sometimes it.
What you plan is not exactly what is going to happen for your life. You can't just plan your way in life without circumstances coming in the way, like certain issues of life. But not just that, but I'm sure he's going to have the struggle of, because of the fact that he has powers. That's the other thing.
That's the other thing.
His powers that manifest within him come from Elyon. It's essentially our version of, basically, he is God. That's what he is. And Elyon simply translates to God in the highest. And we chose the name because it sounded the most alien without actually disguising his name. We believe in God and we want him to be at the epicenter of everything that we create. But essentially, with all characters in our universe or our multiverse, they have any power that they have comes from the Creator. He comes from God. It comes from God. So with Velocity in particular, he is a very human person, like kind of common. Yet he has these unique abilities that, we've seen them in comics before. They're a lot more powerful than most people would believe. People think that it just means you run fast. But with Velocity, would you describe his powers?
In a way, for him to survive the whole idea, the way his powers work, in order for someone to survive, they have to generate a kinetic field around their body so that it would protect them. And Velocity has something like that. It's essentially Elyon putting a shield over his body every time he runs super speed. It is a very supernatural gift that is very non-scientific, which is something that's going to be really strange for Velocity, as he's going to be constantly trying to attach his abilities to science and trying to understand them through science for a significant portion of the story, until a certain point when he
starts changing more, because then it will show up. It's going to show that he is different. His body is changing.
He's going to learn that some things can't be explained through science, and it's going to be a hard thing for him to accept, but he will have to.
He's not going to be able to explain how his body is changing until one day, from basically how we wrote the character and how Manny's mostly written him, and it's that basically the still small voice within him, which is Elyon, is going to explain things to him little by little.
And almost every turn, he's going to try to ignore it or
resist
it in some way, and it's always going to have consequence.
Yeah. Basically, human nature takes over. And another thing that I want to talk about is Tal. It's another character that we've been working on for a while. We've developed a bunch of villains for him, and as well as just many different stories that we're hoping to tell with him. How would you describe Tal?
He's a kung fu master, our martial artist, and very at first when I had the idea, it was very
stereotypical,
yes.
Asian guy with kung fu master abilities.
But then he sort of evolved from that into something interesting, very interesting. He's Asian American, Chinese American. He's his story is very painful. It has to deal with a lack of a father figure and having to sort of grow up without one. And very similar to Velocity, he has that sort of ordeal.
To a degree, because he actually did grow up with him for a while, but not long enough to really establish.
It was about the same age.
Yeah, pretty much, like 10 to 12 years old, basically, is when he lost him, or something like that. With Velocity, it was more like 6 or 7. Yeah, but with Tao, it's like 10 to 12, almost teens. He has a connection with his father, but he doesn't have, he didn't have the experience from what we've discussed. He doesn't have the experience of actually having a father, to teach him some of the essentials.
For the most part, the father was in a lot of trouble due to his
He had he was an accountant, basically, a forensic accountant, and he was really good at keeping, basically cooking books.
The problem is he was working for a
criminal organization that we like to call the Jinsei. Is basically kind of like the triad type group. They're very much a psychotic group of criminals, very motivated by money, greed.
They worship money.
Yes. The Jinsei, we call them the Jinsei, which means the golden ones. That's very, it's kind of silly, very cheesy to a degree, but it's going to have a lot of unique story, development whenever we actually get to share them in comic book format. Because of the fact that you'll have stories of traveling the world, going to different parts of China, and going to different Asian continents generally, as well as other dimensions that we're hoping to explore. Specifically with, we can't share everything.
Yeah.
But you'll see in the comics once we get there. And another character that I want to discuss is Nexus. We've mentioned him a few times already. Nexus is basically, he is more alien but not. He seems alien in his ways, but he's very human in the regard to how he perceives the world. But when it comes to his abilities keep him more set or more focused on his responsibility, his duty,
as well as everyone else's.
One of the things that differs him from many heroes that are, I guess, Superman-like, is that he's not a visitor from another world. He was literally created for the sole purpose of maintaining peace. He is a entity that is somewhat human, but formed at the edge of time and space, and then placed on Earth as a human. He was not sent through a spacecraft. He was not sent in any way other than the simplest format. He was born as a human, but his genetics are not human. He is completely not of this world. He is basically, he has the ability to manipulate matter on a molecular level. And because of this, he has unique abilities like strength, speed, flight, teleportation, and other gifts that manifest according to the need. But he does not use his abilities to show off as a superhero. Although he can when he needs to, he tries to maintain a balance of keeping away from humanity in public unless he has to be there. He wants to be a beacon of hope to anyone who watches him and anyone who sees him interact in the world, but he doesn't want people to see him as some kind of idol, someone to look up to, because of the fact that there are times when he has to kill. There are times when he has to basically completely put an end to an enemy, a threat, and then there are times when he has to allow entire cities to be destroyed because they were supposed to be destroyed because of the evil there. He weighs and measures his decisions according to basically his purpose, according to the purpose that Elion instills within him. And similar to stories in the Bible, actually, where places like Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed because of their actions and their misdeeds, their perversion. Or similar to Nineveh, how even though they were evil, they were saved because they basically turned from their ways. These are the reasons why he's there. Nexus basically brings a balance. He maintains order.
And every single character that we've came up with, they all have a
similar responsibility.
A similar responsibility to unite under a certain banner, a certain responsibility, a certain purpose.
Their gifts are not without purpose, basically. Their abilities are substantial for a reason. And then we have another character who actually is an alien from another dimension.
Her name is Cora.
Yeah, this one was actually kind of funny. We came up with it after we came up with an entire alien world called Zoar. Zoar was actually a name that's written in the Bible, and it's a place actually that's in the Bible. We liked the name so much that it sounded perfect for an alien dimension. On this dimension, one of the things that makes the place unique are these crystals that are ever present on the world, but you can't always find them or use them or touch them. But they're similar to Earth crystals called amethyst crystals. On their world, they have a slightly different name, but basically, they have certain properties like warding off evil spirits and basically blocking out dark energy.
And its most important ability that it offers to its user is the ability to regenerate and heal from any injury. It can actually heal them.
But on their world, it only works for certain individuals. Basically, it only works for those who have the unique gift within them to use it, to utilize it. They have to be similar to like the elite, the heroes of Earth, basically. They are the crystal is hard to describe. It's basically like amethyst crystal, but more amplified. And Cora, in particular, she's essentially a prime minister. She's called the Prime Minister of Science in her world. And basically, what she does is she brings peace. She brings order to her world, but also is a spiritual leader to her planet. One of the things that they do there is they combine elements of science and spirituality. And they are fully aware of the one who created all things, Elion. They're completely aware of him, but the issue is not everyone there believes in him. Because of this, during a time of war, their world was nearly destroyed because they allowed war to become their way of life. Conquest was their way of life. And whenever they managed to see clearly who they were supposed to serve, and all their resources were supposed to be dedicated to, and they saw the unrest of their world completely collapsing and being taken over by nature, they made a choice. They made a decision that they had to basically cast out their emperor, the one who brought about all this destruction and all the chaos in their world, and they had to put an end to their conquests. There's a lot more to her story, but in reality, as the story goes on, her character becomes a hero to her people and also to Earth. And then she eventually works as a liaison between her world and Earth to bring scientific advancement and cultural revolutions that you wouldn't have in today's society. And then you have, there's many other characters that we've developed actually, but we're not going to talk about all of them. The next thing we want to discuss is basically world building. We've actually been talking about this. Some of the areas that we've been developing for use as locations to explore in Second Life.
There are many different universes that we've created specifically for Multiverse Online, and in this, the main universe is the
it's basically Earth Prime. It is Elite City, Earth Prime.
This city takes place in a imaginary island that is about the same size almost as New York, but it exists in a spot of ocean that is in between New York, London, and what was the other one? Canada.
Yeah. Essentially, these locations are nearby by miles, but essentially it's Elite City, along with a few neighboring locations that are across a bridge or through a Hyperloop tunnel. And basically, you have Annex City, which is a city that is just off the shore across a bridge. Once you get past the bridge, or you go across the bridge, you will end up in Annex City. Elite City is a advanced yet somewhat industrial city that has a very unique history leading back to King Arthur, as well as many other cultural aspects that we've developed for the city.
It has about an equal amount of connection to the main city with King Arthur, and it's that it was all created by a founding family. The founding family are a people that decided to make an island separate from the politics and
the craziness of the world out there.
So they created a city of their own to sort of parent into a great civilization. And what they wanted to do with Annex City is basically they saw that they successfully made a city, and they figured, why not make another one, so that they could further have a larger effect on Earth than most other people. So they decided to make another city. That one didn't turn out as well as the first attempt. The first attempt was, the reason why is because the second one was made out of pride and hubris. So that city has an effect because of that. It's very
gaudy, kind of ridiculous, and it's lost its way. It's somewhat coming to ruin. Because
over time, at first it started gaudy, and then over time it started to rust and decay because they couldn't afford to maintain it. They couldn't, and the whole city couldn't be maintained. So it was, over time, many years, it was left to...
It was kind of abandoned.
Yeah.
And then there eventually came a few heroes who sought to kind of bring order and also bring peace back to that island. And we'll show comic book stories with those heroes in particular on that place, that island of Annex City. It's a smaller island city similar to Elite City, but I guess you would say it's kind of inspired by Brooklyn to a degree, kind of that combined with the Bronx. And I don't know, it's hard to describe, really. We've had a lot of design inspiration ideas. We've taken New York, Brooklyn. Some of it we imagined. We could see ideas of how we wanted the city to look and how we wanted to expand Elite City. And I guess all you could say is that we wanted it to be as creative as possible with how we designed each location in Second Life in our virtual region. One of the things also, another location within that area is called Dove's Nest. Dove's Nest is a small island area which holds a lot of mystery. It is kind of a small town village type feel, but modern to a degree, with some historical elements. And then there's a neighboring town just across a tunnel over a mountain. It's a place called
Winter's Crest, I think it was called.
Birchwood.
Oh, right.
There's Dove's Nest, the island, and then there's Birchwood. Those are the two locations. Birchwood is more of a small town feel, closer to Elite City than anything. It's just beyond a mountain. So yeah, what you do is you basically take a subway hydroloop type thing, or hyperloop that takes you underneath the mountain and through it, and you end up at that location. Anyway, we kind of got, it was a lengthy video this time, but thank you for listening, and be sure to subscribe to our channel.
We appreciate having you appear and listen to our
rant
and very long video.
Hit the thumbs up button, please, and comment below if you have any suggestions for how we can do these videos. And
please make sure that you subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Absolutely.
And make sure to ring that bell icon. Show your support however you can. Goodbye.
Goodbye.